Okay, good. Yeah, still good morning, because I'm still with the hour back from where I come, which is an hour ahead of us. Good morning. It's indeed a pleasure to be here to open this first panel of today. And it is indeed an honor to be able to do that before such a distinguished panel of experts. In fact, when I was asked to do this, I was a bit hesitant, because when you read the bios of each of the people on the panel, you have to question exactly what you can add to what they will say. And in fact, the approach that I decided to take today is to give some reflections, observations, let's say, from a more lay point of view. Of course, coming from the background that I come, which is from the employers. And incidentally, the employers group is made up of 106 members. We are all coming from either employer organizations or from private enterprise itself. And the key difference from, let's say, any other institution is that our members, each and every week, travel back home. They integrate with the people and they operate with the people that they represent, or with their own companies. And then we go to Brussels and we are basically taking the lessons and the experiences that we have at home in our countries to the Brussels so-called bubble. And I think this is the value added that we can provide. I've been asked to speak about the health crisis and its impact on the future of Europe. Purely by chance, just 2 days ago, as we were in Paris for a different meeting, I was discussing with a friend and colleague of mine coming from the workers' group. And one of the things I told him was, just imagine if we didn't have the vaccine at this moment in time. Seriously, just stop for a minute and ask yourselves, imagine we didn't have the vaccine today. Just imagine where we would be. So before talking about the future, I want us to think a bit about this present and also about the very recent past. Because if we were in a situation where we had no vaccine, where the only remedy is basically to keep people away from people, this was the only remedy we had before the vaccines came in. Just imagine the stress, just imagine the pressure on our health system, just imagine systems, just imagine the rush to build more wards, to be able to take in more patients. Imagine the stress to be able to produce more ventilators and to deliver them in the right places. And just imagine the pressure on our health professionals, on the people who did such a fantastic job in the past year and a half. And also, just imagine if we had no vaccines, what the impact on the economy would be. Just imagine for a moment. In lockdown, shops closed, factories trying to keep up some kind of production, tourism totally wiped out, and hundreds of thousands of jobs lost. But we produced the vaccine, and the vaccine is a game changer. And the vaccine didn't come about by chance. It came about because over the time, over decades, we have been building research and development capacity. Okay? The vaccines didn't come by some stroke of magic or by some stroke of luck, but we've been carrying out research and development on various vaccines, on various diseases over the past decades. And based on that, we, in record time, managed to produce a vaccine which today is a game changer. This is the reality. If we did not have the vaccine, then we would be, I would think that we would be in serious trouble. But also, what is important, apart from the research and development capacity or capital or pool that we have built over the years, is of course as well the legislative environment within which we work. The fact that we have a strong legislative environment, the fact that we create certainty, has allowed our health industry to undertake the research that is required. Of course, there has been private investment in this, but there has also been public investment in this, and we need to recognize it. This was a partnership between public and private investors, and the results, I think, are in front of us, and it's also a fact that Europe is the leading continent when it comes to produce vaccines. Now, we are in a situation where we have vaccines rolled out, new ones are coming online. The number of people being hospitalized is thankfully going down, although not enough. And we also have in place a digital certificate, which is allowing us in some way or another to gain back some kind of normality, with all the controversies around it, of which I am aware and I understand. However, the reality on the ground also is that with the digital certificate, we have managed to regain our freedom of movement by and large between the member states, something which I feel is extremely important. But what the pandemic has showed us, and this I would like to do a bit of a side observation, if I may. Okay? What the pandemic has shown us is that when we are faced with an extreme, almost existential threat, we're capable of undertaking change at a very fast rate. In a few months, we changed the way we were educating our children. In a few months, we changed the way we were buying our products, we were producing our products, the way we were communicating, the rapid pace with which we took on technology. And this gives me hope, because this is also about hope, gives me hope that for what I consider to be possibly the biggest challenge in front of us, climate change, we will as well be able to undertake the necessary changes. It has also showed us, the pandemic, that when faced with such a threat, we are able to cooperate as member states, okay, even in those areas which were previously considered to be taboo, no-fly zones. And I'm talking about health, of course. Health was seen, and is still, I would say, largely seen as an area of national competence. It's an area where only the member state has a right to say anything and has a right to do anything. But the reality is that because of what we were facing with the pandemic, what we have seen is that there is now cooperation between member states, and what we have seen is that citizens expect us to cooperate on health. If you see the Eurobarometer surveys, it's clear. Our citizens expect that the European Union will protect their health, and not only protect their health, but also protect their way of living. And I think this is also an important lesson that maybe we can draw from the current crisis. And indeed, we all know that the EU has got involved. It has got involved in the way, or in the, let's say, in the production of the vaccines, in the delivery of the vaccines, in the production of ventilators, the delivery of ventilators, and we have also put together an unprecedented financial package aimed at helping the European Union recover from the COVID crisis. If you look at most of the recovery and resilience plans of the different member states, you will see that there's hundreds of millions being put into projects which are health projects. Why? To increase the capacity of member states, to increase the capacity of the European Union to react. And we are also developing a health union, something which was unthinkable till more than 2 years ago. Okay? We have put together the Health Emergency Response Authority, which will allow us to be able to coordinate any future pandemics. Let's face it, the initial reactions from the member states were hardly something to be proud of. The initial reaction was a nationalistic reaction. Okay? It was the nations who were trying to get as much protective equipment for their health professionals, as many ventilators for their patients, etc., etc. But now, thankfully, we've seen that there was cooperation between the member states, and now we have also this authority being put in place, which will help us prepare better, will help us detect faster, and also react faster. And of course, and I know this is also a bit controversial, because it was also mentioned this morning, we have done all this within the space of the treaties we have. Okay? Now, of course, I know there is a lot of discussion as to whether we should open the treaties or not, but my view is that within the structure of the treaties we've had, whereas before we thought that it would be impossible to cooperate on health, for example, we found that it is indeed possible. And therefore, I think that we do have room for maneuver within the current treaties. But of course, we are far from being out of the woods. Okay? The virus, we all know, is still very active, especially at this particular point in time. There is a continued risk of variants that we keep on seeing and hoping that this will not come about. And unfortunately, and I say this really unfortunately, we still see that there are countries, regions, areas where the number of vaccinated or double vaccinated citizens is very low. We have seen some tremendous improvements. I mean, Portugal is a case in point. Portugal, you could say, started off somewhat badly in the COVID pandemic, but today is one of the star performers when it comes to vaccination. So we're talking about Spain, Portugal, and indeed my country, Malta, well over 80% double vaccinated. But then we have countries which are below 50%. Okay? And this, of course, is causing considerable difficulties, and it is leading to death, to loss of life. Okay? We need to be clear that this choice is clearly leading towards loss of life. And also, it will bring me to another point, and I am starting to conclude, the issue of fake news or misinformation. Okay, we all know about it, we've all read about it, and unfortunately it's still very present out there. Okay, and unfortunately a number of people continue to take decisions on this kind of misinformation. Misinformation which is causing people to lose their lives. On this we need to be very clear. And another, I would say, aspect highlighted by this pandemic is the need for accountability of the media platforms. Okay? It's clear that there needs to be a sense of accountability. And again, this might be controversial in some areas. We cannot just talk to these social platforms and tell them you need to be responsible, but I believe that we need European legislation to make sure that they are responsible for what they carry and for what they do. And it also, and I really must thank them here, highlighted the importance of having independent and professional journalists. Okay? This has once again highlighted the importance of having people who are really independent, who fiercely defend their independence and are very professional. And it is these people who are the frontliners in, I would say, the war on misinformation. So, to conclude, because I want to, of course, we want to all listen to the panel, and I am especially interested in hearing the debate as it will go along. I would like to leave 5 key takeaways, if I can. First and foremost, the EU, as an interinstitutional structure, has become more important than ever. Okay? We've always felt that the EU is important along the decades of history, but I think this pandemic has once again highlighted how important the EU is as an interinstitutional structure. Second takeaway, our citizens clearly expect the EU to protect their health. This might have been an expectation which was not there before, but now it is clearly defined and is there. The citizens expect the EU to protect their health and to protect their way of life. The third key message is that investment in innovation and research has to continue to be at the forefront of all our actions. And I am not talking only about technology and manufacturing of products. I'm talking also in the health area. Investment in innovation and research and protection of intellectual property rights. We need to protect also that area, because if we create uncertainty, all we will see is a flight of talent, research, which will go to other continents where they can find more certainty. The fourth message is that the current treaties provide us with a good scope for more cooperation, even in an area such as health, where we previously thought that we could not indeed discuss such a topic. And finally, information, communication and professional journalism needs to become an integral part in all the actions that we take. It's not only in health, it's not only in communication, in media legislation, but we need to always ensure that communication, information and the scope for journalists to work in an independent and professional manner is vital. So I will conclude by saying, because I am an optimist by nature and I want to finish off on an optimistic note, in a very short time, I think we have come a very long way. There's indeed still a lot to do, but if you had to ask me, from where I stand today, I think the glass is more than half full. I will now leave it in your learned hands to take us forward in this discussion. Thank you very much.